Am I on the record?
I would like to call the February 12th, 2026 Airport Commission regular meeting to order. If you're able, will you please stand and join me with the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call?
Chair Feakin,
Here.
Vice Chair Manelga,
Here.
Commissioner Zerl,
Here.
Commissioner Bielfeld, absent. Commissioner Niesick,
Here.
Commissioner Wicker,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Moved.
Okay, thank you. Is there any revision to the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment to B1, schedule public comments where it says HDL Engineering. I'd like to add also master plan alternatives.
Okay. Are there any objections to approving the agenda as presented? Hearing none, agenda is approved. I would like to schedule or introduce HDL Engineering. They're here to discuss the 2026 runway reconstruction project and the master plan.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Eric Jort. I've worked with you virtually for the last couple of months. I work for HDL Engineering Consultants, and I'm a consultant for the Kenai Airport. I'm here, as Glenda introduced, to talk about the airport master plan and the runway rehabilitation project. Before I jump into the master plan update and the alternatives, I will just lightly touch on some of the stuff we have in anticipation for runway construction. When I met with you guys last, we talked about instrument flight procedures and what was going to be happening for the temporary runway. Since then, we've been working with the city, and the city has elected to pursue developing specials into that temporary runway. That is something that is in progress and is scheduled to be ready for sometime this summer. They are trying to get that work done before the runway actually closes, which is anticipated for that second or third week of May. But right now, the only update I really can give for you on the specials is that they're just being worked on in progress. A lot of the updates or the development of those procedures are being closely coordinated with the airport and the city. But again, I think the idea is to get those in place before we really take off with the runway closure. So I think that's great. I think that is definitely something. We had a couple of meetings between the last commission and this one where we sought input from the air carriers, and everybody, of course, was in favor of trying to get something in place because VFR conditions are great, but they're not encompassing of all of the operations that the airport needs. So I think it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to having that there. And as far as construction goes, it's no impact to our operations. We're still thinking we're going to be able to get this done in one season. It is a lot of work, but as long as the weather works out for us, we're feeling like we'll be starting in mid-May and being done by middle of October. So that's really the high level on the runway rehab. And I think the other thing I wanted to maybe just touch on and also open up the floor for any kind of questions or comments was a little bit more of a discussion on the apron pavement maintenance project. You guys might have remembered where I introduced mainly the runway work, but also alluded to some crack seal and crack repair work that will be happening on the apron. This will be worked on by a separate contractor under a separate contract. It just so happens that they could not get out here last fall to do the work before the rainy season came. So their schedule slid into this spring, this summer. A majority of that work is, again, just repairing all of the cracks that have occurred on the asphalt, mostly on the apron and taxiway Juliet. It's broken up into 4 different areas, and a lot of their work is taking place at night. So I know there would be an immediate concern that we'd have chunks of aprons closed off to the airport and not available during the daytime, but the way the work will be phased and the way that the construction will take place will be of zero impact to you guys. It all happens during nighttime. Operations will remain as per usual during the day, and the work is only scheduled to take about 3 weeks. So depending on the weather and how fast they can get started, there is a possibility that we could have all of the apron crack seal work done before we even close the runway. It is something that the contractors are trying to look at as an option, but right now we're still buried in snow and waiting for things to melt. So kind of high level there, and open to maybe comments or questions if that's allowed, and I'm certainly happy to answer them.
I have a quick question. When does the start time going to be for the crack ceiling at night? Do you know what time they'll start yet?
Yeah, the construction safety and phasing plan designates or specifies the hours of operations. The work areas are broken into 4 different phases, and 3 of them are from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The 4th area, which is the northern section of the apron, is 24 hours a day, knowing that it's outside of really of any of the air carriers' operations. But Dan, more specifically to your question, it's a 8 to 8 operation. 7 to 7, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know that some of the air carriers come in after 7 p.m., so one of the stipulations, as Jackie's reminding me from behind me here, is that they do have to maintain access at all times and make sure that we mitigate impacts to the operations of the airport.
Are there any contingencies on that, on the north side, because of potential for firefighting activity?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a bunch of general provisions included with the construction, safety, and phasing plan, one of which is that they have to work harmoniously with all of their contractors on the airfield and also pay attention to people like Division of Forestry, Everett's, FedEx, all the main players that are out here. We have to work harmoniously with them as well. So yeah, if it happens to be that there's a large fire and a large chunk of the apron on the north end is taken up by aircraft, we'll have to work around that and come back at a later time, later on this summer. But hopefully we can get in and out of here and get out of everybody's way before we tear up the runway.
And that's no taxiways, just aprons, correct?
It's the aprons and it's Juliet. So basically
Oh,
everything,
Juliet, okay.
yeah, but everything in the immediate area of the apron.
Okay. And just a question, again, going back to the instrument approach procedures. Was there any, I know we had conversations before about the using the existing approaches, but just saying that the straight-in minimums are not authorized, circling only. Was there ever any resolution with that, or any, I guess, avenue that the FAA had given you or us as far as why that went that direction?
You know, Paul, and I did owe you another phone call on that particular conversation. One person that we did recommend answers to this question is a gentleman named Neil Brandon Sutton. He's an instrument flight procedure specialist out of Seattle that works a lot with Anchorage and Alaska in general. Some of the responses I got back was that, and I don't have any answers to give you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, if no other thoughts or questions on the runway rehab or the apron pavement maintenance, I will just quickly jump into the apron or the airport master plan update. And all I'm doing here with this presentation, it's just a few slides, but it's mostly to introduce to you all the draft alternatives that we have put together in anticipation for next Thursday, our public meeting on February 19th. We're about halfway through the master plan itself. We've completed the first phase, which included what I like to call the homework phase. It did all the research, it did inventory of the airport. We looked at airfield capacity, we looked at forecasting of aviation operations out here. And we took all this information, and now we're into what I like to call the implementation stage of the master plan. We took everybody's input from all the interviews and the public cards that we received comments on, and put together alternatives that show different areas of development throughout the airfield. So the goal of this presentation is to introduce those to you guys and then follow up with an invitation to come out to the public meeting next Thursday, where we'll be taking all comments and feedback from anybody that is available to make sure that what we can come up with is a preferred alternative to move forward with implementation of the master plan. So with that, I've only got about 4 or 5 slides, and I might step away from the mic and speak a little louder if I need to point to certain areas of the airfield. There are a lot of different alternatives. There's 4 different alternatives. I'll take that back, but there's a lot of different improvements within each. So maybe I'll just dive right into it, and then again, I'm happy to take questions, so by all means, fire them away. So one of the alternatives that we always look at is as a do-nothing alternative, or what happens if we make no changes to the airport. What you see here is just an aerial overview of the airport as it currently sits. And what I'm highlighting over in the left-hand side of the page here is potential areas where we might need additional navigation easements, mostly to control the airspace tied to the runway protection zone. Again, without moving away from the mic, it's kind of hard to tell in this figure, but it's the area that's highlighted in green and called out by item 1A. The reason we have this identified still on the no-build alternative is this was still carried forward from the old master plan that was done in 2017. These were navigation easements that they recommended the city try to acquire, and right now I think that's still something that's in progress. But aside from that, the rest of the airfield under this alternative remains the same, and again, it's one of the alternatives that we're asked to consider in case nothing moves forward. You'll see similarities in a lot of these alternatives because some of these things, of course, would carry forward. We wouldn't, of course, want to not recommend navigation easements and other alternatives and not in this one. This second alternative, which again has lots of information in it, generally speaking, it does carry forward some of the alternatives that were addressed in the existing master plan. And the real reason behind that is a lot of the comments we received from the public, the commission, and other members of the airport still strongly voiced some of the same improvements that they would have liked to have seen starting from 2017. Primarily speaking, if I were to focus maybe on the north end of the runway, what we're showing over here is the extension of North Willow Street and the advancement of commercial aviation. Again, I know there's lots of different things going on in here, but the lease lots highlighted in pink are all designated as commercial lease lots. You can see that we also expand over into Marathon Road on the south side, or on the east side there rather. And we also make opportunities for additional general aviation parking, snow storage, which is the blue or the cyan rectangle there. And then we show lots that are being designated for future commercial use. If you work your way on the left, towards the left-hand side of the page and you focus on the apron there, you can see we've added some additional transient parking. It's identified as 2 Charlie. We also highlighted one of the only other available commercial lease lots that are existing as is right now and showing it as future development for something, whether that be an FBO or another commercial entity that would be interested in pursuing that lease. As I move more into the runway and the taxiway configurations, you're seeing a lot of blues, reds, and yellows. What we're showing in yellow are a run-up area, and that's between Foxtrot and Echo. But bigger picture, what I'm trying to show here is we're addressing the hotspots that are publicly identified. There's 2 of them, one at the Echo Alpha intersection, and then, of course, the one over here on the very south side next to Foxtrot, Juliet, Alpha, and Gulf. The reason that these are identified as hotspots, primarily the area of concern on the 4-way intersection is it's just pilot awareness. It's a hard place for congestion, and it's a hard place for traffic to interchange with each other. I think if you all know Ron Lapp, this was something that he had brought up at one of our RSATs previously in the years prior. And again, it's something we're trying to address while also still maintaining access to Gulf Hotel and the tenant aircraft tie-down area. If you move closer to the right, you see we removed a chunk of taxiway Echo between Alpha and Juliet. And the reason for that is because it eliminates the direct apron to runway access. It's an FAA design standard that they don't allow. It's a safety precaution. Basically, they require aircraft to make at least one 90-degree turn before they enter onto the runway. So the chunk of Echo between Alpha and Juliet gets removed, and Kilo, which is the next taxiway to the north, gets rebuilt into a perpendicular taxiway and gets widened to accommodate C3, C4 aircraft. The rectangle that's in replacement of the portion of Echo that was removed is a de-icing pad and aircraft wash area. And then again, if I move closer to the right, we propose to reconfigure Taxiway Lima and provide direct access into this commercial apron to the north, which is currently existing as the gravel apron. We preserve the gravel apron in its existing condition under this alternative, knowing that in our other alternatives, we actually show relocating it to the west side of the water runway. So you guys are going to see that here in just a minute. But we wanted to give interim steps of what that would look like if in case for some reason we cannot relocate the strip, but we still want to expand commercial operations to the north. This was a scenario that we thought would work well for the city. If I could move to the west side of the runway, Taxiway Sierra, you'll see there on the south side of runway 02L20R. Again, designated mostly for general aviation expansion. We plan to do more development around the floatplane basin, again, for general aviation, and we also provide access for additional snow storage for airport operations. And then also, in addition to that, we just continue progressing general aviation lease lots to the north. So I think that's it, big picture here. I think what would be great is if we're all on board with it, I'll just kind of touch on the other two alternatives. Again, you're going to see a lot of similarities with exception to the gravel strip being relocated and a couple of different sub-alternatives for taxiway layouts. And there's only 4 alternatives here. So on the third one, again, a lot of similarities of what you guys had seen on alternative 2, with exception of noting that the gravel runway is relocated west of runway 02W, 20W. The nice thing about this is it allows for full expansion of the commercial lease lot development in front of Taxiway Juliet. We can also push the apron space closer to Taxiway Alpha and completely designate that all for commercial aircraft parking, as well as the actual commercial lease lots themselves. You see a lot of similarities with the rest of the layouts as you move directly south, with exception to the hotspot number 1, the one where we have the 4-way intersection. What you saw earlier on the previous alternative was, and I might zoom back one, you saw an expansion of Taxiway Foxtrot, but it's obviously very small compared to Kilo. And the idea there was designating that area of Foxtrot for all of the small aircraft that use the tenant aircraft tie down and the lots that are tied to Gulf and Hotel. Knowing that this alternative is one to consider, it's not one that we have to choose, and we certainly don't have to keep all of these alternatives together with just this alternative itself. In other words, we can shop around and take things from this one and maybe move it to another one. So I don't want to constrain the viewers to think that if it's not on a different alternative that we can't move it around. But what I really like about this next alternative, the one I've already kind of introduced, is if you look back again at the hotspot area, instead of extending Foxtrot to Hotel, we actually remove that area in its entirety and we include Taxiway Uniform. And that's this large chunk actually south of the run-up area here. It's wide enough for C3 aircraft, so people like Desert Air or Everett or people with FedEx that have those larger aircraft can immediately come off Taxiway Foxtrot and still access the terminal apron or the large transient aircraft parking that's directly south. And it'll still allow for small aircraft to make a U-turn, come down Hotel, and access the tenant aircraft tie-down area. You see the run-up areas as we had proposed originally, and then with the relocation of the gravel strip, we then also proposed to relocate Taxiway Lima further to the north and make it a little bit wider. If I could zoom back one and show you why we couldn't on the other alternative, it's because of the runway protection zone tied to the gravel strip. We have to stay outside of that, and so what we're showing is a reconstruction of Lima to accommodate that service. In this alternative, again, we relocate the wash pad, de-icing pad in between Kilo and Lima, just due to the space we have available now. And then I think the third taxiway, which I did not note on alternative 2, but it does exist, is the midfield taxiway, Taxiway Tango. And the reason we included this taxiway in the midfield is to appease the tower. They would like to have a midfield exit-only taxiway to help keep operations a little smoother, to get aircraft off the runway sooner than later. It is something we've been vetting with the FAA, and they do find it to be acceptable. But again, we'll be seeking public input on all that next week. A lot of the rest of the alternatives that you see are still similar to Alternative 2. Again, with this, aside from the relocation of the gravel strip, float plane development still occurs, and then general aviation expansion and snow storage to the west. Under the last alternative, which is the one that we're considering for the emerging trends or what would happen in a sustainability perspective, meaning what happens when LNG comes, or if we introduce like Alaska Airlines or an even large air carrier, how would the airport be ready to sustain a level of operation that could be usable for that kind of a service? What we propose here, again, we still propose development of commercial and general aviation from the west and to the north, but what you see where the existing terminal building is you see a little bit of a different layout, and what we're showing in this small blue rectangle is basically just an expansion of the terminal building. One of the things that we're working with a couple different companies on is figuring out the best ways to accommodate somebody like a MAX 8 or an Embraer 175. Those are 76-seaters or 175-seaters, depending on which plane you look at. I know most of you are aware of Volair and their passenger leakage studies that they've been doing, and they've been trying to pursue SCASD grants to get somebody like Alaska Airlines or Horizon up here with a direct flight to Kenai. So I think one of the bigger questions for the city and for us is, well, what happens when that becomes true? And how does the airport accept that level of service? You know, somebody that big would require TSA. There would be a place that we would need to be able to park that plane. And we also need to accommodate extra baggage space and things like that inside the terminal. So one of the things that we'll be doing, aside from moving forward with a preferred alternative, is have the plan in place to implement something when we do get the SCASD grant and an airlines company does want to show up to the city. We'll have a plan ready to go so that we can accommodate either a smaller Embraer 175 or something larger like a MAX 8. One thing I guess of note also under this alternative with the expansion of the terminal building and introducing a large air carrier such as Alaska Airlines is we do show taking up that other commercial space, which is highlighted in pink under Alternative 3, and designating that as other transient aircraft parking. And that's mostly to accommodate space for those large aircraft to park overnight. Some of the other improvements that I'll touch on is just the terminal building itself, the parking lot itself. You can see that we are looking at a study to make sure there's enough vehicle parking spaces to accommodate rental cars, the public passengers and the staff, as well as the rental car companies that are out there. Based on the studies we've been putting together already, if for any reason we have complete full capacity on the adjoining terminal building parking lot, we've created spaces across Willow Street in the overflow there as another alternative for extra space. Aside from that, that is really the big picture of all four of these alternatives. We are super excited to bring this to the public next week, and I think one of the bigger takeaways there is we do plan to have a presentation with a little more detail and explanation of the different facets of the master plan and what we'll be going or where we'll be going in the next 6 to 7 months. But what's really more important is once we get through the presentation, we'll have large roll plots out on tables, and we'll be looking for the public and the commission or whoever is attending these meetings to come and provide feedback, really literally marking up anything they like or don't like on any of the alternatives or providing comments so that we can come out with the most preferred alternative that appeases everybody that's in the overall flying public. So if you have time next week, February 19th from 4:30 to 7:30, we highly encourage you guys all to participate. And with that, I don't think I have much else. Contact information on the back. We do have a master plan website as well as a construction website. Jackie and I have a bunch of flyers here that we can pass out to the group if you'd like those just as a hard copy. But in general, that's about all I've got for tonight. Yes, Jim?
You haven't mentioned grass strips very much, and I've got a couple of people that I know that really want some functional grass strips either on the south end or next to the gravel. And that's going to be, it's going to be an issue that needs to be brought up and taken care of and provided for.
No, that's a good comment, Jim, and I think that's something that we hope to hear next week as well. We want to incorporate those type of comments. I've heard about that in a couple of interviews where they maybe wanted to consider extending outside of the gravel strip to have a designated grass.
Oh, yeah, one of the people that I know that's in our hangar development is, sent me a thing that the FAA has been working on it as far as as far as all the safety stuff with grass runways and understanding it. Regular runways can cause damage to some of these aircraft.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's always some hurdles to jump through with the FAA and what they deem eligible for Airport Improvement Program reimbursement. Those are hoops we're all very familiar with on our side and definitely willing to jump through them to try to get what the users need at the airports.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'm happy to take more questions.
I got a couple.
Yes, Paul, please.
Surprise, right. Just dovetailing onto what Jim was saying also, and this is, and you'll hear this, I'm sure, next Thursday. It's, a lot of the AC 50, 150, 50, 5300 S13B. I guess it talks about allowing turf operations on unpaved runway safety areas, RSAs. So that the FAA is now in favor of doing that. I think that's probably one of the things that they're talking about, not necessarily just to have a dedicated grass strip, but to be able to use some safety areas to land, and so that'll be brought up, pretty much, Gary.
I think that's the study that one of the guys sent me as a reference to.
Yep, exactly. And also, one thing that's started that you may know this, I don't know, CAP has almost 5 acres in that little area. In my estimation, it's too big for us, for our needs. And I did a little bit of legwork for Christine Cunningham, and she is now starting to get negotiations between the Air Force, Alaska Wing, and our local squadron to help shrink our footprint and have more land available. So I don't know if that's probably not gonna impact the master plan a whole lot, but it's just something else to consider, I guess, just to have that. It's not a secret. We've talking about taxiway Sierra forever, and it's gonna happen. The only thing I can see when I'm looking at that, the whole west side of the airport, which is good, it's all either gonna be air taxi or it's gonna be general aviation. But the only way to get to and from the runway is on Sierra. We do have that access road that's to the west of Echo. But if you're landing to the north, you're gonna have to taxi around, back taxi the whole way. Or if you're landing to the south, you're gonna have to just either exit off and then go Alpha all the way down to the end and go there to be able to maybe put that on as far as, and I don't know what kind of development cost that would be, probably a whole lot. I mean, just the way things are these days, to be able to make that access road an actual taxiway, or to be able to upgrade it for use, just to be able to have some other way to get to and from the runway. Because if all the activity is gonna be increasing over there, and just having that one access point all the way down at the south end is pretty tough. I know Homer went through that whole thing down there too, south end of their runway. That was quite the pain. And the only other thing I got is with the advent of like the air carriers like jets, is our ARF index gonna have to change for that? Are we gonna have more crash rescue equipment to be able to handle larger aircraft?
It's a great question. It's something we're going to look into. I don't have that answer off the top of my head. I know the size 1 ARF that we have is the minimum that we're allowed to have for Part 139, but with that larger aircraft and larger seats, aside from the introduction of TSA, there will probably be a larger increase of the index.
And that's a huge expense, staffing, equipment-wise, everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Paul, for all those comments, and certainly
That's all
appreciate
I got.
that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I know that we'll be here next commission. I know we'll be here next week, but I plan to attend the next commission, and we'll likely bring some of the contractors with us here. One of them actually is online here and was able to take any of their questions construction-wise if we had them for him, but my goal is to bring them here in person next month, and then we'll really be able to ask any questions we need. And it'll be a little bit closer to construction, so we'll have a better idea on schedule and timelines.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to any item that's not appearing on the agenda? Do we have anybody remote? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve January 8th, 2026 minutes?
Second?
Thank you. Are there any revisions to the minutes? Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing no objections, the minutes are approved. May I have a motion to recommend council, I guess we're moving on to unfinished business. May I have a motion to recommend council approve the 2026 annual work plan goals?
Yeah, move.
Okay. Do we have a staff report?
Just that, we missed the motion to move to, council last month because, officially, so you discussed the goals and the recommendation was to move them forward. So
Okay.
that's why they're back in here.
Okay, back me up. Okay, so we're supposed to be discussing them. I thought we did that.
We discussed them last month,
Okay,
and this is officially, so I went back and put them in the layout, comments, 1, 2, and 3, and now is your recommendation and council to approve.
okay. So do we have any discussion on them? Okay. May I have a motion to recommend council approve the 2026 annual work goals?
Second.
Okay. Hopefully we got that covered. Okay. We're looking at the special use permit for Rainbow River Lodge LLC. Oh, I didn't. Sorry. I'm leaving.
We'll be back again next month.
You left it off my paper, I didn't. So can I have unanimous consent? Okay, so we are having unanimous consent, thank you. Okay, now that I've messed that completely up, we're going to try again.
Okay.
Special use permit for Rainbow River Lodge Aviation LLC. May I have a motion to recommend council approval of the special use permit to Rainbow River Lodge Aviation? Can I have a staff report?
The airport was contacted about 3 months ago from Chris Hardis, Rainbow River Lodge Aviation. He would like to rent a slip at the floodplain basin to transport people across the inlet in different places. He is going to have 2 vans that actually bring the people to the airport, so there won't be any parking there by his customers or anything like that. But he's flying for someone and he's testing the waters here. He's gonna see how it operates. He's excited to come and he thinks he'll be here like the end of May or first part of June.
Okay, thank you. Is there any council discussion?
Is he operating anywhere else in the state right now? Do you know?
I believe he'll be on that in June.
Okay. Do you happen to know what type aircraft they fly? Is it going to be 1, 2, 5, 10?
One aircraft and
Yeah, I think it's a Beaver.
Yeah.
what?
It's a de Havilland Beaver.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were a pretty good fleet.
right, yeah. That's what it was.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, that's what we wanted, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there fuel available?
Oh, my gosh.
So that, that'll make us two people operating off of that side then?
Potentially, I've only heard from him.
Okay,
Oh, Jeremy hasn't contacted you yet, or?
He has not. And I will mention that he is not going to be operating on that same side as if Jeremy came over. He is requested to be on the east side, all the way at the end, like where the CAP had parked their vehicles. And so that's what he's going to be operating on.
Okay, is that gonna pose any security issues? No? Okay.
So we'll give him gate cards. He's going to have two vans, two drivers. We'll give him gate cards.
Does CAP still have a slip there? No? Oh,
Well, I think I'll be.
well, the Beavers are gone, but we still have a 185 on floats. They were trying to get us to take it last year, but they weren't able to get the maintenance done on it in time. I don't know if we're gonna,
Well, you can have his slip.
okay,
There was no charge for CAP.
right, no, okay, just making sure.
There's lots of slip.
Yeah, they're definitely getting out of the floatplane business. They keep breaking them, unfortunately.
is there any other questions, discussion? Okay, if not, I seek a unanimous consent. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the second extension of the airport security contract. May I have a motion to recommend City Council approve to extend airport security contract?
Move.
Second?
Okay, may I have a staff report?
Yes, in 2024, the airport put out an RFP for security services at the airport. Guardian was a successful bidder. It was for a period of 1 year with the option to extend for an additional 4 one-year terms between the city and contractor, mutual agreement. We do have a current certificate of insurance on file, and they want to renew under the same terms and conditions, and this will be their second extension to the security guard services.
Any questions, discussion?
I think we talked about this a little bit before. They seem to be doing a pretty good job, didn't you say? Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, if we have no further discussion, I'll look for unanimous consent. Okay, thank you. Looking for a report from our airport manager.
A lot of snow, a lot of plowing, that's going good. Operations are going good. We have, right in the middle of, or towards the end of the fiscal year 27 budget, which is due tomorrow, so we're submitting those to administration. There will be a runway safety action team meeting scheduled for April 21st at City Hall. Julie and I are meeting tomorrow with Carrie Adcox, the tower manager. His agenda, I think this is the first time for him, so do any of you remember if there was one last year? An RSAT meeting?
What was that for what?
Runway action team, you know, where they,
Yeah, there was one.
was there one last year?
Yeah.
Okay, we can't find any record of it. Okay. And I have some really good news. Crowley Fuel came into the office and they are replacing their 24/7 credit card fueling system.
They're modernizing it, or is it?
Is that a definite maybe, or is that?
No,
or
they are replacing it. He came in to tell me they will be replacing it.
So they'll be digging up the tanks and putting in a above-ground system? That'd be nice,
Yes, they are.
yeah. Tell them thank you.
I did.
Good work, thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, I really don't have anything other than to welcome our newest member. So I'm glad you're here.
Appreciate it.
Okay. May we have a report from Ms. Askins?
Certainly. So we last met on February 4th, and we sunsetted the Harbor Commission. It's no longer in existence. 4 city-owned properties in the Beaver Loop area that are used for gravel extraction have been approved for a public sealed bid auction. And we authorized the city manager to reimburse annual leave for one of our firefighters. He attended a paramedic internship program and used all of his annual leave and did it on, pretty much on his own dime. So we elected to reimburse his annual leave. We increased estimated revenues in the water and sewer capital budget project fund, and accepted a loan from the state revolving fund program for the water treatment pump house project. This particular loan is an interest-free loan, and upon completion of the project is forgiven, so it's not going to cost us anything. We also authorized the replacement of a new snow blower, and we also had a presentation on the investment and allocation of the city's permanent funds along with the airport funds. And we also approved unanimously the appointment of Mr. Bremer to the Airport Commission. Welcome. And have scheduled a work session for, I believe it's March the 4th, with the permanent capital management to discuss potential amendments to our investment options. And I'm open for questions. Oh, and the other thing is we approved the approach for the airport. That's not on here.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll move on. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to our next meeting notice, March 12th. Will everybody be here? Okay, great. Okay, looking for commissioners' comments and questions.
I can't tell you about my office. We had a hard time keeping up with snow removal. I can't imagine if you kind of do too. Especially whiteout during the day. Did you get to drive?
No, I have too much to do. But he can handle that.
Any movement on you can't be replaced, but any movement on having a different person occupying the chair?
We, the application period's completed on the 8th, and the committee does have applications, but we will be reviewing them over the weekend, and we're meeting on Tuesday.
Okay. And
I
also,
might add that we're also having a meeting with CAP on Tuesday.
with CAP. Yay.
We are 17th.
Hope it's successful.
Yeah.
They're leaving me out of it. I wonder why.
Yeah, we're having a meeting on the 17th.
Yeah. One other thing is, I unfortunately, Jim Bielefeld's not here. He texted me earlier about some questions he had about some of the data that was part of the Valaris study that was presented here to the to council. And I think Dan is Dan on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Dan, did Jim talk about those to you, about the numbers?
No, he did not, but I have a lot of questions as well, and I don't think we probably have enough time tonight to go through every one of them.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and a lot of it is I'd like to see exactly where they're getting their numbers because it's not matching what we produce or whatever, that kind of stuff.
For
Yeah.
clarification, what numbers?
Fares, number of scheduled flights, all that.
It was presented to council?
It was part of the slide presentation that was given to.
Oh, Valaire's presentation.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I would highly recommend going to that council meeting. You can pull up the video and listen to that presentation.
It's just some of the data that was in the slides. And actually, I went through the slides myself. And it was interesting because Jim had come up with a couple of the same questions that I had as well. They were saying that they were only coming down like 17 flights per day for Grant for the summer, and that's not true. They're not going to curtail that many flights. I mean, it's just, they're not. And the other thing was, I think, part of the data as far as the fares, the fare estimates for how much it costs to go to and from Kenai.
Yeah, or at least explain how they come up with their average fare because math should math and not, 2 + 2 shouldn't come up with 6.
Okay, if you could forward those questions to me, I will gladly take them to Valaire.
Yeah, because I noticed the same thing too. They were showing, like I said, during summer, they were in a cut back in the amount of flights to like 17.
Almost half.
Yeah, which is not
Yeah.
true. They haul more people in the summer than they do any time of the year. And then also I noticed that the fare that they were showing was 300 some odd bucks, round trip. And it's what, $140, I think, one way. Yeah, something like that. So it's less than that. And I think actually they were showing that price as one way. They weren't showing as round trip. So the price seemed kind of inflated.
Yeah, and they compare it against Dead Horse and saying Dead Horse was cheaper, but they're showing just the fare from Anchorage to Dead Horse, but they're showing a $300 fare from Anchorage to Kenai, $360 fare. And the schedule, they're cutting half. They're saying we're going to fly half the schedule in the summer than what we're flying right now during the middle of winter, which is slower than what we do in peak.
Yeah, I think if the city, just my estimation, then if the city's contracted with them to present our best case for trying to get a regional carrier or larger here and have direct flights to the lower 48, it'd be good to be able to have correct numbers. So,
Sure.
if anybody else outside of this group has the same questions saying, well, at the end, getting all those.
Yeah, I really encourage you. That's why, I put that in there for your review, so I would really encourage you to put your questions in writing to me, and I can forward them on.
Yeah, because one of the comments that I was thinking about as the council, they need to understand that the correct data needs to be out there because an airline's going to do their own study and find out the correct information before they make any decisions. And if the city's providing a pitch to an airline, it's going to look bad if you're using data that's not truth and not fact. And I do apologize for not being down there. I couldn't get a seat today. So after like 11 this morning, they were full. So
That's a good problem, right?
well, yeah, it just also means I should book about a week in advance. I didn't try until Monday.
Okay, we have any other commissioners' questions, comments? Okay, if nothing further, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Too bad if it ended like